August 7th, 1944, at whatever time all those 3 a.m. challenges happened, it began raining in the town of Oakville, Washington, and Officer David Lacey was out doing his rounds when the rain started, and upon the rain obscuring his windshield, he turned on his wipers in order to regain sight of the road. Instead of clearing off the windshield like regular rain particles, the particles smeared all over the windshield like a snot-like substance. Unable to see, the officer pulled over, put on latex gloves, and went to examine his windshield. Upon exiting his vehicle, he noticed that there were tiny blobs the size of grains of rice all around him. This place was slimier than a motel bedsheet under a blacklight. He picked one up, and it squished like jello in between his fingers. That night, Officer Lacey had to go to the hospital after experiencing extreme dizziness and severe breathing problems. Later that day, a senior citizen, Dottie Heron, saw the globules on the ground while walking her dog, and at first she thought it was hail. She also picked up the blob and squished it between her fingers, and as anyone would, they found it very unusual. Later that day, her kids came over to her home and found her on the floor very pale and sweating profusely. She also reported that she expelled copious amounts of vomit throughout the entire day. The hospital reported that this was an ear infection, and eventually, she got better. That's not all though. Most domestic animals that were left outside during the rain got deathly ill or died as well. Whatever this weird goo was, it was a biohazard. What's even stranger is at the time of the incident, the tiny town had a population of 665, which is exactly the number Satan would use if he was trying to avoid suspicion. Before we get into what the goo might be, or where the goo came from, or what it tasted like, let's establish what the goo does. People who came in contact with the evil mystery slime reported symptoms including trouble breathing, extreme vertigo, pale complexion, profuse sweating, blurred vision, intense nausea, and bouts of vomiting. The people who contracted this mysterious pathogen would stay sick from weeks to months. While the diagnosis of an ear infection makes sense for the vertigo, the nausea, and potentially the vomiting, it doesn't explain some of the other symptoms, and it certainly doesn't explain the incredible length of time in which the symptoms persist. Dottie's daughter took samples of the blob to the hospital to see if they could find something out. Upon testing it, the lab technician noted that he found human white blood cells inside of it, but he couldn't determine anything else. They sent the biohazard slime to the Washington State Department of Health, and in that test it was reported that it contained a bacteria commonly found in the human digestive system. Dottie kept the blob in her fridge for a while and took it to be tested again after she recovered. This time, it was reported that the blobs had eukaryotic cell structures, meaning that they were once alive and part of a multicellular organism. Now, that strange revelation aside, can we talk about how she stored this blob?
Hey Ma, it's time to go to the lab and get the blob tested. Where is it?
Oh yes, it's in the fridge.
The fridge? Let me get this straight. You stored a possibly lethal biohazardous mystery sludge responsible for extended spells of violent illness in the same place as your food?
Yes, it's on top of the vegetables next to the potato salad. The toxic blob fell over the town 6 more times in a 3-week time period, and then it suddenly stopped. So the obvious question, what are these blobs? And where did they come from? There are multiple established theories. One is that an airplane dumped out all of the turds from inside of the human waste storage. But first off, what would a human being have to be eating in order to poop a great amount of clear Orbeez every time they go to the bathroom? And second, the FAA requires all airplanes to dye the waste blue, meaning that it couldn't be the clear globs that they saw falling from the sky. Some believe that this was an unintended consequence of military bomb testing taking place in the ocean around that time, and that the globs were pieces of star jellyfish that got blown to smithereens by Uncle Sam's unending hunger for military power and Michael Bay-style explosions. Some think that the resulting jellyfish organs flurried down over the town like a surrealist alien Christmas special. While this would explain the physical structure of the blobs, it would not account for the physical illness that promptly plagued the town afterwards. Some residents reported seeing blacked-out military aircraft flying over the town just before the rain, which prompted some theorists to think that this was experimental biological weaponry that was intentionally dropped over the town. It was later discovered by people trying to debunk this incident that there was no test showing that it had eukaryotic cell structures, or any bacteria from the human digestive system. So information given from those apparent tests seemed to be unreliable. The Washington State Department of Health even said there was no record of such a substance being tested. So it might not even actually have happened. The claim that this was a multicellular organism or that it had human white blood cells in it is seemingly untrue. However, this does not prove that the substance was never alive. It just proved that it wasn't multicellular. The globules could still be a cluster of single-celled organisms. Did this actually happen, or am I just lying to you for money? Don't know. If I am lying, it's because someone else lied to me first, so you should feel bad for me and be mad at them. The only written record of this sky blob plague happening that still exists is the residents' testimonies. Remember that eyewitness testimonies are not always reliable. That being said, if the members across the entire town reported the same phenomena individually over multiple weeks, that's gotta mean something. There was an image that circulated claiming to depict these blobs, but those are northwestern salamander eggs, and you cannot fool someone with the vast amount of useless knowledge about animal fornication that I have. I don't know if I believe something like this happened during that span of time, but I have 4 possible theories that could explain this story. My first theory is that we're dealing with a naturally occurring yet incredibly rare phenomena. My second theory is that this could be some sort of side effect of industrial pollution. My third theory was that this was the plan of the Orbis Corporation using time travel and biohazardous Orbis to usher in the New World Order inhabited only by Orbis. And my fourth theory, which would probably satisfy any skeptics, including myself, is that the story was hyped up by the media until it was unrecognizable. In the last case, it would be impossible to tell whether this story was completely true, slightly hyped up, or completely fake. If you like this video, please subscribe to join my cult and drop me a like. Big thanks to Cute Fuzzy Weasel for voicing that guy in the fridge scene, and big thanks to A Cat Skill for making the intro song. I'll link to both their channels in the description. I'll also be collabing in a video over on Cute Fuzzy Weasel's channel. You guys should check it out. As always, like 7 at the bell, and I will see you all in hell. Okay, bye.